I'm glad I don't have to dance with you because you're towering. You tower over everybody, especially seeing you and Debbie. You're like 6'3" or 6'4". How tall are you? 6'3". So, well, before we get to Fearless Fagan, that song, Up and Down Honeymoon, supposedly was the first hit record that MGM Records had, #1 record. Is that true?
On top of which, it was not in the original script.
Oh, really?
Both those numbers we were supposed to do. If anybody remembers that movie, there was one.
Well, this crowd remembers it.
There was one number called "That's How I Need You." Debbie was pumping on the piano and playing a little French horn, and I was singing with the quartet. That was in the original script, and that we sang with Janie Powell and everybody that was sitting on the floor, Oceana Roll. When we were in rehearsal for one of the things in rehearsal hall, A or B at Metro, they had a big pile of turn-of-the-century music, which is much bigger than what sheet music is now today. And there was a big pile of it. And I was looking through it. I was fascinated with it. And I knew Debbie was crazy about monkeys. And I found this sheet with monkeys on the thing, and brought it out. And then we were on a break, and I said, "Come on over here." And we sat down, and I played for her on the piano. And I said, let's sing this. I got an idea about this song. She said, yeah, okay. And a couple of days later, I don't know when it was, we were at the rehearsal hall, and I saw Mr. Cummings, Jack Cummings, who was the producer of the film, was headed down the walk, headed toward the rehearsal room. And I yelled at him and said, "Get over here, get over here." And the guy, the regular piano player that was there, then I said, "Let's just do this part here." And I told him, "Let's sing it just as fast as we can." So when he came in, we were just finishing up there and stuff. And he walked over and said, plotted my heart, and said, "You know, that might be a very good number for the two of you." And they shot it, and they loved it, and then they added in "Roll, Roll, Roll" afterwards, for which I did all the little talking in between stuff. Anyway, that's how they got me.
I mean, that is such a classic number. Of course, That's Entertainment brought it back, but that number is just so amazing. And
well, it did. It sold a lot. I remember that when it was on the Your Hit Parade or something, whatever, it was a TV show, was on every week, and they would try to do it in a different fashion. It was on for so many weeks.
Oh, they had to do it different each time? Yeah, okay. That's great. So,
now you want to talk about Fagan?
Well, I think we should talk about Fagan. So, maybe you could tell us when you first met Fagan and what the circumstance was.
Well, I worked with him out well, I'll tell you first of all, that what was my name in the picture? It was Hillston. Okay. But it wasn't. It was Floyd Humiston was the real guy. And I felt sorry for him because he was my height. I'm sure this is how I got the part, because he was built sort of like me. But my hairline, which was always since I was a kid, was way back, and his was way down, so they had to do all this stuff on his head and all this stuff. And in the meantime, he and I would be out in the back lot someplace. I did several weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, just working around with the lion and him. And then sometimes just by myself and riding around in a truck with him in the back seat, mainly to calm my own fears about the thing. And I did. I got very easy with it. But it turned out I love his billing in the thing, and Fearless Fagan himself, who gets the biggest billing. He's in one shot one number of the thing, and it was the very first thing that the character does with the puppy dog at the circus, and that's not me. He did, Floyd did that.
Dressed as a clown.
And, yeah, and he was going to do most of the stuff all the way through the movie with him. But then the next shot that they did was when the lion is loose. The only other day, he worked one and a half days on the picture. And then he said, we told the Mr. Knopf, who was producing it, what had happened is that they waited so long to bring this story to Metro because the lion had gotten older. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I can't handle him. And he's too old, and somebody's going to get hurt if we use it. So in the meantime, I've been broken down a little to him. So he, as far as that was concerned, he was around all the time, of course. But the lion was never used again. They got him from the animal farm in the valley, and they brought in another 400-pound lion, but younger. And the mane was a false wig on the lion. Because in Metro they can do everything. I mean, it's a city. They can do the slightest thing in the world. And on some shots and stuff, the wing would move a little. We didn't have to do it. But it was like I had a kitten with me. And the first thing when he came in, and it was Stanley Donovan, who I just adored, who was directing the picture and stuff. So it was a very, very happy shoot, and I could do everything with him. He jumped up on. Only thing they did, they had like a heavy canvas thing that they put under my arms, under the uniform, so that he could jump up and put that in. But he would jump up on my shoulders, and I never had anything on that. And I never had anything on my butt, and though that you don't see it in the picture, but I did carry a few scars for about 7 months afterwards when he would knit. That was my own fault. Because if he starts to nip at you and you jump a little, then they really go in. Yeah. But if you just kind of relax, he just is kidding around with you. So it was really a joke. And one other thing about him, he would not work after 5 o'clock. I have no idea. 5 o'clock would come, and whatever we were doing, and Donovan and I got such a kick out of that. We said, oh my God, yes, we have to hurry up and she'll quit.
Well, could they just bring in Leo at that point? Was the end of the contract? Leo the lion, could they get him to come in at the end of the day? No? So, well, and it looks like you had a lot of fun with the lion, obviously.
Oh, I did.
Did Janet Leigh bite you on the set, or how did that go? You want to talk about working with Janet a little bit?
I loved her.
Yeah.
I miss her, so this is terrible. And my leading ladies are all gone, except for Deb, who we're going to see tonight.
That's right. Debbie's going to be there tonight. We're so excited to have her. Well, yeah, so you started at MGM in 1949, is that right? Or when did you first get to the studio? Somewhere around there?
I guess so. It was right. It was after Lost Boundaries.
Okay.
Which is when I've been out of the Navy by then. But the big thing with Cinecon, is with this, I'd never heard of it until when Jan Shirley did Sky Full of Moon. And that was the first I ever heard of that. Of course, I live in New York. I don't understand how they're giving me an award for movies, because my whole life has been spent since I was 17 years old on the stage, and it still is. When I go home from now, I go into rehearsal for another play. I've never quit work, and I don't feel 86 at all. I feel about 22. Anyway, it's a great honor for me. It's a huge surprise. And I'll tell you, the first time I heard about it was when my darling Jan Sterling, just shortly before she died, and they ran a picture called Sky Full of Moon that the two of us did. that I loved. I don't know that any of you came to see that here, but I love that movie. And it's, that was my favorite. And I only made a dozen, or maybe, I don't know how many films I made, but they're not all that many films. A ton of TV.
Well, you've got a pretty long resume here, so, yeah.
We have an awful lot of television. And
Yeah.
most of it was before the T went into the union in AFRA, which I joined in 1944. That was the American Federation of Radio Actors. And they didn't get the T in for a long time, so what you paid, whatever you got paid for whatever they could afford for the part on things.
Scale? You got scale?
There was no scale.
There was no scale then?
We had no union.
Okay.
We had AFRA, but until they put the T in.
Oh, no TV yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's so I work constantly. Go on.
No, that's all right. No, I was going to say we wanted to run Whistle Eaton Falls, which is a really rare, kind of unusual Columbia film that you did, and they're in the process of doing a restoration, so I know it wasn't ready for us yet. But you worked with Ernest Borgnine in that.
That was his first picture, yeah.
And some other great stars. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that movie.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get to run it next year.
It was, well, not Ernest Borgnine, but Arthur O'Connell. That was his first picture, I think. And what was it I told you when I forget?
Lloyd Bridges.
Lloyd Bridges. Oh, no, Lloyd Bridges had been to films before.
Yeah, Lloyd was in that
so
with you.
Dorothy Gish, who was in the picture.
Okay.
Oh, she'd been in pictures. But there were a lot of...
It was an all-star cast, it really was.
Well, yeah. A lot of people, Lonergan and a wonderful cast of people. Yeah. Murray Hamilton, did I mention him?
No, you haven't.
I think it was Murray Hamilton's first picture.
Okay.
It's an interesting film. If we can get a copy of it, I'll come back again.
Okay. You heard it here. Well, some of the other movies that we all love, of course, you have a small part in Father the Bride, but a great scene with Spencer Tracy. So great. Well, you showed him how to open a soda. I mean, he didn't know. You showed him how to do it. But maybe we could talk about Summer Stock.
Oh, Summer Stock, I had a earlobe or elbow and everything.
Well.
And then little fix in the tractor, but at least I got screen credit on that.
Yeah.
I didn't with Father the Bride, or I did with...
Yeah, you're not credited for that.
But I got to walk Joan Bennett down the aisle at the wedding, because I got to be the head usher. Oh, there were little bits and pieces in there.
Yeah. But quite a cast on Summer Stock, of course, Judy Garland, Gene Kelly, Gloria DeHaven, I mean, just all the MGM biggies. So what was it like for you working with them?
Oh, it was incredible. And it was, I'll tell you one story about it. There we had the dancers were on I think like a 10-week contract or something like that, to do a lot of dance numbers. And we all became friends with that stuff. And when they were leaving, I gave them a party and in the rehearsal hall, back to the rehearsal hall again. And Judy reminded me, I played the piano player in the thing. And when they were rehearsing doing anything, or during shooting and stuff, when there was a break, she would always come over and sit beside me and throw her arm around me. And she reminded me of Kay Ballard, who was an old friend of mine, and who I wrote material for in New York when she was doing cabaret and stuff. So that reminded me of what did I say?
Oh, you're talking about Judy, I think, but maybe some of the other cast. So you went to a party at the rehearsal hall. We got that.
And when she said you didn't invite me, and I said, oh my God, would you come? And she said yes. And she and who wrote this, Dear Mr. Gable.
Oh, the songwriter Arthur Freed?
No.
Roger
Eaton.
Okay.
And she and Roger Eaton's came, and I had written a song for called Let Go of Your Heart. And I brought a lead sheet in on this. She sang it, and with him playing it on it. This is before there was any tape machines or anything. Oh my God, and I don't have any kind of a thing about this at all except in my heart.
And this was a song that you wrote. And she sang it sight unseen, or?
She just read it on. Did a whole lead sheet on the thing, and he played it, and she sang it. Then she went right back to the beginning again, and when she got to the center section of the stuff, she did a riff on that, which immediately, when I got home, I wrote down. And I watched her. I don't know what I was shooting at the time, but I saw her do an awful lot of the last thing that she did at Metro. Which was,
the Get Happy number? Okay.
Yeah. And all the kids that were in there.
Yeah.
And they called me back after she had done that. Then I was called back in to do the lead in to the Gene Kelly. They added that number with the tearing the newspapers on the floor, just to say how to close up and stuff at the beginning of that. And the very first thing I ever did at Metro was because I'd done radio and stuff, but I had to loop a part in a Joel McRae film. I can't remember the name of it now, but there was a character in the young guy in the thing, had a wonderful scene with him. It was a big scene in the picture about, it was the end of the Civil War, and when they met and stuff. And that was the first thing that it was going to loop that. Of course, with Fagan, we looped an awful lot of that, because the trainer is off the thing. They're all yelling, making noises at him, stuff, and we're saying goodbye and all that stuff. Then there were shots, and I think when he would put the ball up, knock my hat off at one point. Anyway.
No, these are great stories. I mean, this is just amazing. You also, of course, we could talk more about your movies, but you also did some war movies, Take the High Ground, and then not that long after, you started doing a lot of TV.
Well, I wasn't allowed to do TV when I was under contract.
You weren't? Okay.
No, that was a big thing.
Okay, so I have your first TV credit as Lady in the Dark, 1954. Is that right?
No, that was way into the thing, but that was a huge thing. We did the Danny Kaye part with Ann Southern.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Lady in the Dark was the first Broadway show I saw when I was, it was in 1941, so whatever, I was born in 26. When I did my first Broadway show in 44, March 2nd, 1944, it was not only my debut on Broadway, but it was David Merrick's debut. If anybody remembers old enough, David Merrick and all.
Well, Miles had lunch with him last Tuesday, so. And some other great credits here. The Shirley Temple Theater, wow. Ann Southern show, so you and Ann worked together.
Shirley Temple's one of them. She still did. But she sang.
She snapped her finger. And then we met because you worked with Mary Martin, and so I was doing the Mary Martin biography, and that's how we first met. So maybe you could talk about working with Mary a little bit. Yeah,
that was the international company of Hello Dolly, and it started. I think the original at the St. James in New York with Carol Channing had only been running about 6 months, and they decided Gower was going to direct another company. And it's the first time Miss Martin who I adored. Well, to begin with, before that, I liked her in One Touch of Venus, but I was always a Ethel Merman fan until I got to work with Mary. And it was the first show she had ever done that she didn't know the music from or had known much about it until we all started rehearsing. It was like a brand new thing. Even Gower directed it, even changed the characters of Barnaby and Cornelius, which I played, it changed the characters. It was all brand new, did brand new dances. One bit was put into the Broadway show, and they got rid of another one. This is all before we took off. And we toured all over the country, and we were headed for the culture exchange program after going to Tokyo for a long run for 6 months. We were moving on to Russia with the show. And they canceled the, because of our
relations?
Our relationship about the Vietnam stuff. They changed, they canceled the cultural exchange program.
Oh.
So David Merrick and Gower came over, and everybody took them over. Of course, we all said yes, and so we entertained to Vietnam, and I had entertained at Korea before that, and I was in the Second World War. Right after I did 2 Broadway shows and graduated, and still was 17, and I turned 18 on my way from after boot camp in the Navy, going to Tinian, where we ended up with the 38th CB Battalion, and we were there, and it's very short, to build a runway, and it was the runway shortly afterwards, and I even saw the plane, that the Enola Gay took off from, that ended at World War II, which is really something when you find that out years later, that what you were doing there.
Yeah, that's amazing. And of course that was recorded, that was done, made into a TV show, your travels with that show, Hello Dolly Around the World.
Oh,
yeah. So that was sort of a documentation of that, right?
Oh, yeah, about the tour,
Yeah.
They had nice shots of it in Japan and stuff. And this was with this is before they had mics on anything. So when we, we weren't mic'd for that.
So you really projected.
Yeah.
That must have been tough if you had in some of those shots, it's a pretty big crowd of guys that you're performing for.
But no, everybody, I never bore a mic in a theater until I played St. Louis Muni, and you have to. If anybody knows the big theater in St. Louis, you know the same. Well, it's a mile wide, and it's I don't know how many, half a mile from the back of the stage over the orchestra, and then almost count them, 10,000 seats going up the hill there, and you have to wear something there. I was doing Cinderella, one of the stepsisters out there.
Oh, really? Now, because we touched on a little bit that you wrote a lot of songs, and you probably still do. Maybe you could talk a little bit about your songwriting and also the fact that you're an author, a published author.
What I could do when I go home, I'm going to be in start rehearsal on Matchmaker, which is the play of Thornton Wilder that Hello Dolly is based on. And I'm going to play a small part in that, because after that, they're going to do a musical of mine called Northern Boulevard, which was done in New York in 1985. And we made it more concise so they could do it in regional theaters. So we're going to follow with that. With Equity Theater in Bennington, Vermont, the old Castle Theater companies, I have to give that. It's just wonderful, and I've been doing a show up there every year for 18 years, and the company's 40 years old. And this will be the first time that building the theaters are sitting here now. They had a benefit last week because the chairs had new chairs had arrived. So we turned a place that was the service club. I think I told you that.
Yeah.
Okay. And gave it to the company. So they're turning it into it. This theater will be about 170 seats.
Well, we're all going to come, so we'll be there. This is near Warwick, where you live, or close to that?
No, this is Bennington, Vermont.
Bennington, Vermont. Okay.
Bennington, Vermont.
All right, we're all going to do a road trip to Bennington.
All right.
Really fun. And also want to talk about your books. Tell me a little bit about.
The books?
Yeah.
Oh well, there are 7 mysteries still in print that I wrote. And I'll be outside if you want to talk about that stop. And
so they're available? We can find them?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
You can get them on eBay, or I have a simpler thing I can tell you.
Okay. Well, because afterwards, Carleton will be out in the lobby if you want to meet him, and he'll sign things. Let's grab some questions and before we go.
Yeah.
Carleton, did you write the song that Janet Leigh sings in the movie?
No, I didn't. Who do you think I am? No, I didn't write that. I wrote a song for the first movie I was in, Lost Boundaries, called I Wouldn't Mind. And then when I was, and I hated me in that movie. When I saw it, I looked like Donald Duck. And it was, and I still do, I guess. But it was, I hated it, so. I love the theater so much. I love movies. I love going to the movies, but I never thought about making movies or anything like that. Then I saw it, and I hated me so, and then I will, and they were offering, this is so long ago, and Hollywood offered anybody who is coming along in the theater, and they'll offer them a contract for not very much money and stuff, but I've lost my place.
That's all right, no.
Yeah. Quickly, your favorite performance, your favorite song you wrote, and your most difficult performance.
Okay, the most difficult performance, all right, only because I didn't think it was, I was supposed to, it was written, Dobie Gillis was written for me, and Debbie, and Barbara Ruick, and
Bobby Van?
And Bobby Van. Those are the four. I came back from my second trip to Korea and ready to start that. And somebody by the name of Luella Parsons, who all the time was a big fan of mine, and she had headlines that had Debbie and me doing every picture in the world. We only did two. But and I said, well, it's going to be wonderful to do Dobie Gillis. And she said, oh, you're not going to do that, Carleton. She said, you're going to do, I forgot what the original title was. It wasn't Take the High Ground, but it's the same film.
Okay.
And
now, she was the one who broke the news to you about that? You didn't know?
No, she broke the news to me. She's the one that said I didn't. Yeah, she's the one that told me I wasn't going to do that.
Well,
that's so when I went into I wanted to do John Murray Anderson's Almanac that was coming up in New York, and I decided if I had to do that Army pictures, like every other Army picture that was ever made, basic training picture, and then they go off to war.
Yeah.
I got a couple of good scenes in it, but that's it. But star billing, I've asked for appointment with Dory Sherry, who was then in charge. When I arrived in Metro, there were the mayor people and though he wasn't on the lot yet, but the Sherry, there was kind of a strange thing between the two, I guess. I don't know what.
Sort of the changing of the guard at that
I think changing of the guard, that's right. Anyway, I had a talk with him and told him, and I said that I'm leaving, and I wondered why they would not make Dobie Gillis could have been a big picture, I think, at any rate. I said it was such a disappointment for me. I said that Edna May Oliver could have played my part in Take the High Ground. And a bit better in it than I was.
That's good.
And your favorite performance?
Favorite performance, I know that's hard.
That's difficult. I loved playing, what did I do in Mr. Roberts? I played...
Oh, and Mr. Roberts?
I did the part that Jack Lemmon did in the movie. What's his name?
Ensign Pulver.
Ensign Pulver.
Ensign Pulver.
I loved Ensign Pulver, and I love because that script for Mr. Roberts is so perfect. You don't have to do anything except say the lines, walk off, and time the laugh. I love that part. I think it's part. That's a terrible question, as you know.
Well, she always asks terrible questions. We love her to death.
But I know so difficult to answer. But I loved Hotel Paradiso, the role in that, because I was completely different. I wore a blonde wig. I looked like Alice Faye.
Nothing wrong
and
with
I'll tell you a story. When we ran, Bert Lahr did the lead in it, and it was Angela Lansbury's first Broadway show, and we both started together. She did four, she in Hollywood and me there. So then this was our first thing together, and we hung out together all the time. But while we were doing it, after we opened one night, at the Henry Miller Theater, which has been no longer there. But it was a wonderful theater. I was up on, my dressing room was up 2 flights from there were dressing rooms on the first floor, and I was 2 flights up. And one night, there was a knock on my door right after the show, and I just finished taking off my blonde wig and putting it on the wig stand. And I opened the door, and it was Cary Grant was standing there. And it said how he had enjoyed my life just by himself, how he had enjoyed the performance, so would I like to have a drink with it? And I said, oh, I'm sorry, I've got a date.
What? What is wrong with you, Carleton?
I did the date, but I thought, but then after he left, I did have a date, but I thought, after he left, I thought, what the hell am I doing?
Oh yeah, you don't turn down a drink with Cary Grant. You just don't.
And the song, the best.
Oh, his favorite song?
That he wrote.
That you wrote.
Well, my favorite song? Oh God, don't ask me that.
I
love my score for Northern Boulevard. So it's.
Thank you.
Yeah. Some of the songs that you wrote, Every Other Day, you wrote that,
Well,
right?
that was for a movie.
That was for, yeah. So.
And I wrote music for some TV things that I was in.
Yeah. Very prolific. Well, unfortunately we're out of time right now, but we're going to head out in the lobby if you want to say hello to Carleton. And I just want to thank you so much. It's such an honor to have you here.